A fog creeps over the graveyard. A full moon rises, and then the sound of ghouls twisting, groaning, laughing from beyond the grave. In 1962, a novelty song took the world by storm. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. Bobby Boris Pickett's was a horror parody that became a Halloween anthem. It was fun, it was goofy, but it also tapped into something bigger, the growing love for horror in music. Because just a few years later, horror wouldn't just be for kitsch, it would become a force that changed rock forever. From the goofy monsters of the 60s to the nightmare-inducing horror metal of today, this is the story of how rock embraced the darkness and never let go. The 1960s were obsessed with monsters. Hammer horror was reviving. Universal's classic monsters were everywhere. And rock music, it was just starting to get weird. Bobby Pickett's turned the idea of horror into a dance craze, but at the same time, one man was taking it to another level. Screamin' Jay Hawkins, the first shock rocker, before Screaming Lord Sutch, before Alice Cooper, before Marilyn Manson, there was Screamin' Jay Hawkins. His 1956 hit was originally meant to be a blues ballad, but after a wild recording session, it turned into something completely different, haunting, aggressive, almost supernatural. And his live performances, they were unlike anything audiences had seen before. Hawkins would emerge from a coffin, sing into a skull-shaped microphone, set off smoke bombs, and wear outlandish costumes. With his voodoo-inspired stage antics, he created the blueprint for what would later be known as shock rock. A British singer-songwriter who continued the legacy of Hawkins elevated horror theatrics to an entirely new dimension. His name, Screaming Lord Sutch. His biggest song, Jack the Ripper. He'd come on stage with fake blood dripping from his hands, stalking his audience like he was the killer himself. The reaction? Horror, shock, excitement, and this was just the beginning. Because by the end of the 60s, rock wasn't just playing with horror. It was about to become a full-fledged nightmare. Arthur Brown, the god of hellfire. In 1968, Arthur Brown took theatrical rock to another level. His song Fire became an anthem of chaos, but it was his stage presence that made him unforgettable. Wearing a flaming helmet, elaborate costumes, and painting his face in eerie designs, Brown pioneered the use of fire and surreal imagery in rock performances, influencing future generations of shock rockers. His outlandish persona laid the groundwork for what was to come in the 70s and beyond. In 1969, 4 guys from Birmingham changed everything. Black Sabbath's music wasn't fun like Monster Mash. It wasn't a theatrical gag like Screaming Lord Sutch. It was genuinely terrifying, with satanic riffs, haunting lyrics, and Ozzy Osbourne's ghostly wail. They created heavy metal, born directly from horror. From then on, horror and rock weren't just connected, they were inseparable. From shock to spectacle, the rise of horror rock. The 1970s turned horror rock into something bigger. Alice Cooper took Screaming Lord Sutch's theatricality and dialed it up to 11. Guillotines, hangings, snakes. His concerts felt like haunted houses. Kiss made horror fun again, with fire-breathing demons and blood-spitting performances. The Misfits mix punk energy with horror movie imagery, inventing horror punk. The Cramps emerged from the underground, blending rockabilly, punk, and horror themes into something uniquely twisted. Their obsession with B-movies and psychotic sounds made them cult legends. And then, the extreme horror of GWAR and Gigi Allen Enter GWAR, a band that looked like mutant alien warlords and drenched their audience in blood, slime, and whatever else they could throw. They weren't just performing horror, they were horror. And then there was Gigi Allen, a performer whose shock tactics went beyond horror into complete chaos. Known for self-mutilation, defecating on stage, and violent confrontations with audiences. Rob Zombie, Lordi, and the modern horror rock scene. No artist has embraced horror quite like Rob Zombie. Starting with White Zombie and later as a solo artist, Zombie fused metal with horror movies, grindhouse aesthetics, and over-the-top stage shows. His music videos and concerts feel like haunted houses come to life, with grotesque visuals, pyrotechnics, and horror-themed imagery. Another band that took horror theatrics to an extreme was Lordi, this Finnish shock rock band known for their monstrous costumes and horror movie-inspired stage performances. Won Eurovision in 2006 with Hard Rock Hallelujah, proving that horror rock still had mass appeal. Black metal, the music of pure darkness. If horror rock was about theatrics, black metal was about invoking real terror. Originating in the early 90s, bands like Mayhem, Burzum, and Darkthrone took horror to extreme levels, both musically and in real life. Their music was raw, lo-fi, and drenched in satanic imagery. But the real horror? Church burnings, murders, and violence within the scene. Black metal became a genre that blurred the lines between art and real-life horror, making it one of the most controversial movements in rock history. The end? Or is it? Horror and rock have been dancing together for decades, and they're not stopping anytime soon. But now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite horror-inspired rock song? Did we miss an artist? Drop a comment below. And if you love music, horror, and the stories behind them, subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, this story is just getting started.